Hey guys, my name's Alex, and I just want to share a bit of my story with you guys. My story actually starts out here in Newport Mesa. I'm 25 now, and I grew up in this church. I grew up running through the hallways. I grew up actually with my mom working here in the ECC. I've been to every program, whether starting out as a baby, a bunch of people will change my diapers that know me now as a grown adult, and they're like, hey, you're Alex, you're Bev's son. I used to change your diaper. I'm like, wow, that's a really strange way to say hello to someone. My name's Alex. I don't know your name, but I grew up going through all the programs and being in the church, but not being a part of it. And as I grew up and started high school, my faith had this moment to either go on forward as my own faith or really just kind of fade away. It either had to, be a faith, a relationship that's mine, or something that just my parents did that I was a part of. And so at this moment in high school, I realized that this relationship with God wasn't really something that I was interested in. My parents followed God, my mom worked at the church, but I never really had this personal, intimate relationship with God, and I stopped going to church. And from then on, time and time again, I started to struggle more and more with things like anxiety, things with depression and suicide. And the further and further away I got from the church, right, I stopped going to Sunday services, stopped going to youth group, really started to seclude myself from those people who would really pour into me. Like my friends started inviting me to church. I'm like, I can't go that day. I've got to wash my hair. I'd really just do anything to really not go to church. I have a million and a half excuses why I shouldn't be there or why I couldn't be there. But it was weird because I had this duality where I knew this hope, right? I'd grown up in the church. I'd heard all these stories of God and His goodness, and I'd seen Him show up in other people's lives. And in reality, I saw Him show up in my lives, but I decided no, it wasn't for me, and I stepped away from the church. I stepped away from those friends who were trying to get me to church. I stepped away from the youth group. I stepped away from all of that and started to live this lifestyle that wasn't Christian. As I went to college, I started drinking, started smoking, started living this life that absolutely wasn't Christian, with these relationships that weren't uplifting to God, or in reality weren't uplifting to myself in any way. And the further and further I got into this lifestyle, the further away from any light I saw in my life I got. I saw just kind of the sad darkness of life, where the friends I had were, my mind, oh, I'm not as bad as them, right? I'm not doing the things that they're doing. I saw like the lifelessness that they had. And I always had this duality of where I saw these Christian friends, right? I connected with them a little bit as I grew a bit older, and I saw the hope that they had in Jesus. I had grown up in the church seeing all these, seeing and hearing all these stories of God's goodness, and I knew them to be true. I knew that there was a God who loved me, but I guess I just really didn't care. And so the further and further I got into this lifestyle, I really started struggling more and more with depression. I started struggling with purposelessness. I started just feeling like, if this is life, what's the point? I'd see how other people are living, who I thought, okay, these are my friends, and they're living these lifestyles similar to me, but how are they having any hope? Because they are living these crazy, extravagant lifestyles and outside of God, but like they're still happy, kind of. But as I got to know them a bit more, I realized that none of us were really happy. I realized that all of us were trying to fill this void. All of us just kind of felt like this darkness inside of us that either, you acknowledged and started to struggle with depression, or you just tried to run from or fill it up, or, went to the next high to really just get away from that, to escape from that feeling. And eventually for me, it got to this point where I knew the reality, I knew of God, I knew the story, I knew the Bible, but I never had this personal relationship with Him. And it got to the point where I just felt this overwhelming sense that I can't keep doing this. I struggled with it time and time again, where I'd feel like this moment of God calling me closer. I'd start to read my Bible because I knew this is what I should be doing. I'd start to attend church a bit more, but something would pull me away. And it was this year-long constant battle of back and forth of finding life in Christ, to find this light at the end of the tunnel, but then realizing, no, that's not what I want to do. That I wanted to live this lifestyle. I'm comfortable in this. I'm comfortable doing this. I don't have to worry about being wrong or right. I can just be me. But the reality is, being me just was sad. The lifestyle that I wanted to live was one that was destructive, not only to myself, but to those around me. And eventually, it was January 1st, funnily enough, the start of 2017, I woke up after honestly just a night of partying, and realized this lifestyle isn't the lifestyle I wanted to live. I had felt this call of God in my life. I had felt like God has been like, hey, you're my son. I love you. I want you to be a part of my family. I want to be your father. And I felt this yearning for this lifestyle that was different, back and forth, this internal struggle for a year. And finally, January 1st, 2017, I finally was like, okay, like there's something to this. I know that God has been calling me. I know that there is a God. I know that there's a life that's completely different than what I've been living, and maybe there's hope in that. So come January 1st, I actually attend service here in Sanctuary, and it was all about recalibration. And I thought, I was like, how fitting is it that I lived this year, however many years, this sinful lifestyle outside of the church, living in darkness, living this life being completely separated from God, living completely stuck in darkness. And now my first Sunday back, it's talking about recalibrating my life towards God. And in that moment, I realized, okay, this is really what I've been waiting for. This is really what I've been known to be true, but I've been running from my entire life, where there was this lifestyle of hope that was out there, but I just wanted to live the way I wanted to. And looking back, it's kind of crazy knowing both sides, growing up in the church but not of it, and choosing to step away from the church, and being able to see kind of the juxtaposition, the contrast of this lifestyle of death and destruction, where it's just filled with a lot of false hope, and then finally encountering Christ, right? And now living this lifestyle where it's just complete freedom, but that freedom is in God. It's like day and night. It's two completely different lifestyles that, looking forward, I can't imagine ever going back to this lifestyle where I don't live for God. I can't imagine living this lifestyle where I'm not living as a son of God and finding my identity in Him.